Welcome to Adobe Illustrator and this week's exercise, Still Life, Painting and Drawing. Please make sure you download from Canvas the two images necessary for this project, 3D Square and Paint Fruit. In this exercise, I will be assessing you with the learned skills, how to use the pen tool, how to use the paintbrush, and how to use the gradient tool. When you're using the pen tool, please use the 3D squared image. You will create an outline around the 3D boxes. Make sure you're making enclosed forms so that you can fill the boxes in with a new color that will help define the shape. Think about the tonality of a dark and lighter surface that's visible within the picture. Paintbrush. We're going to build up textures by using the paintbrush tool and the paintbrush panel. Understanding how to use opacity to build it, an understanding on how to create different size brushes, finding the library within the paintbrush panel and choosing a creative paintbrush with lots of texture, and the ability to use an eyedropper. Gradient tool you will use to create a unique background. Make sure you have both of these images together on one 11 by 17 page. Where in the lesson, I show you step by step how to create these images. Here, I want to challenge you to do it yourself. I'm going to show you a few steps on how to get started. Let's create your new document. Let's open up Illustrator. You're going to create a new document, and then you're going to go into the presets. Presets, you're going to add your name, but also the title of the project, which is Still Life. Double check that the width is 17 and the height is 11. Make sure that it's inches next to that. And also orientation. We want to also look at CMYK and that it's at 300 dpi. Now we're going to place image. You're going to download your images from the desktop. You're going to go to the menu file, place. Then you're going to select the images and you're going to hit place. Select both of the images and drop them into your page. There are two shortcuts, one for Mac, which is Shift Command P, and Shift Control and P is for PCs. Zoom in or zoom out to make sure that you can see both, and you want to make sure they're equally spread on both sides of the page. Now we're going to lock our images in layers. So to do that, you'll open up the layer panel. If you don't see it on the side, you can go to Windows and open Layers. And you're going to see that one layer is already created, and we're going to lock it. It's the little space in between the eyeball and that line. We're going to create a new layer, and there we're going to change the name, and this is where we're going to do the drawing. Make sure that this layer is selected. If nothing's selected, you can't draw on it. You must select something. Now you can draw. All right, we're going to start drawing. Make sure we're going to use the pen tool for this drawing, and we're doing the square boxes. You can pull the pen tool and move it over towards the boxes. This will give you a quicker access to it. Let's zoom in using the zoom tool and grab your pen tool and start outlining. Make sure you're spending a lot of time zooming in very close to make sure that you get those closed forms to be really truly closed. You see here, I thought it was closed, but it's not. See how it extended? I need to make sure it's always closed. So you'll do this for all the sides around all the boxes. Add a detail of shadow. Again, carefully look at what you're doing. Now we're going to start filling in the colors. So you can either use colors or you can use swatches. If swatches aren't found, you can find swatches in the windows. Here's my swatches, and I'm going to kind of go with this orangey pattern here, from bright to light. I'm going to put my shadow in the darker orange, the actual form in the lighter and then the front in the lightest orange. And you can play around with this, figure out different colors, but this is one of the challenges for you. I want you to come up with your own color palette for this black box. Also, I had a black line around everything. Make sure everything is white. All right, let's get started with our still life painting. We're going to use the brush tool. We're going to change the size. We're going to use an eyedropper. We're going to build up the form using textures from our new paintbrush library. Let's get set up. Let's make sure that we have our paintbrush, but also we know where the paintbrush panel is. If it's not located on the side, you can double check and find it in the menu under Window. All right, so we have it available now. We're going to go where those little books are slanty, and that is where our library is. And we're going to double check that we have some of these more textural, creative brushes available. So there's calligraphy, there's watercolor. Let's start painting, but let's first check to make sure that we have everything available on the control panel. It's always good to make sure that you have opacity available. All right, we can start working on the next steps. So let's take the eyedropper and select a color. Make sure it's on stroke and not fill. After you get the color selected, you can just start painting. You might want to change the size. If you can see that there's that little circle, and I'm increasing the size ever so much. For the detail, you want to make sure that you kind of use some of the tool's assets. So I'm going to select this lighter color, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the circle, and then make a little dot, because there's a whole bunch of little dots for this whole shape. Obviously go back and do more detail, but this is a way that you got to learn how to use the tools to better enhance the image. For the apple, there's little streaks. You can see here, there's tons of little streaks. So make sure that the size is correct for those little streaks. After you've done that, eyedropper, and then start stroking the image with the correct color. Again, it needs to be on not fill, but stroke. This is the building up that I was talking about. Continue to build up the image to get that look of those little lines that describe the apple. Thinner, different colors, using the eyedropper over and over again. Remember to take your time on this. It might be darker on the bottom, a little bit darker on the top, and then really bright in certain areas. Also, figure out how to use that new library and use it according to what could be a kind of scratchy or more textural effect. I grab some of the yellow here, and I'm going to use one of the tools. I'm just going to play around with it. And that didn't work. Let's try another one. So maybe just a little bit of it and not a long line. It's all going to matter on how you pull the stroke, that these more detailed images are going to create what you want. Finally, let's talk about the background. So here we want to use the gradient. So let's pull a rectangle out. Use the panel for gradients to select it. Make sure again you're on fill this time instead of stroke. And then you're going to go to the gradient tool and use the gradient types to maybe enhance your background. So if you want to turn it or tilt it, you need to make sure that that gradient bar is moved inside of the image. Now I can move it in an angle. I can also use a color or swatches, CMYK, to create new colors other than the general black and white. You can even start with the swatch and then adjust it in color. So hopefully you had time to play around with a lot of this or all of this stuff in the lesson. So this should be really easy and kind of fun to just enjoy your perspective on how this still life can come together. All right, let's start saving your file. So the first thing you're going to do is go to File, Save As. And the first thing is Save as Illustrator. As you can see, I've already saved it, so it's just going to be resaving it. And then we're going to come back and we're going to save as a PDF. This is the file that you send to me. Again, it's already been saved, so you're going to resave it. The first thing you should do is there's the options, but let's go up to the Adobe presets and let's select small file size. And then the options, you can just take them all off or view after saving, which I like because it opens up Acrobat Reader so that you can see what it looks like. All right, submit your work.